We have a lot of books to talk about today. So today's video is talking about my anticipated book releases for the rest of this year. And I thought I wasn't going to have a lot to talk about in this video, but then I went through and did prep for this, and I have like 20 books. So the way we're going to do this is I'm actually just going to give you, instead of like reading the entire summary, since you'll be able to do that on your own if you do find you want to learn more about any of these, what I'm going to do is kind of summarize each book by certain tropes that are in it or certain things that kind of act as the hook for the book. So you'll see what I mean when we go through it and do it together. So I'm gonna go in the order of the release dates, starting with the ones that are being released the soonest and then working our way towards the end of the year. There is a wide range of genres in this batch as well. So hopefully, no matter what kind of books you like to read, you will find something here that may interest you. Let's get right into it. The first one that I have is called Evil Eye by Etaf Rum. This one is being released on September 5th, and it is a literary contemporary fiction. This is the author of A Woman Is No Man, which is one of my favorite reads from this past year. It is examining life from the Palestinian American woman's perspective. It is very much a family drama, and it is examining what it means to have a fulfilling life. So it sounds like it's going to be very powerful and poignant, just like her debut book was. This author has an incredible writing style. This is one I definitely plan on picking up. The next one I have is The River We Remember by William Kent Kruger, which is also being released on September 5th. This is a historical fiction mystery novel. It is a small town feel, a murder mystery, and the author of This Tender Land, which I've read before and absolutely loved, and exploring themes of the wounds left by wars we fight abroad and at home. That sounds so good, and this cover is incredible. I really enjoyed the other novel that I read from this author, so I anticipate this will be a really incredible character-driven story. Next, we have The September House by Carissa Orlando. This is a paranormal horror novel being released on September 5th. It is following a haunted dream home. It is a debut novel, and it sounds like it is a Gothic house ghost story. Say no more. Those are all of my buzzwords. I cannot wait for this debut. My goodness. The next one I have is Talons Sister by Jen Williams. This is being released on September 12th. It is an adult epic high fantasy, and this is the author of the Winnowing Flame trilogy, which I've really enjoyed so far and still need to finish. It is set in a world of mythical creatures. It has an examination of a ruthless religion. It is a brand new duology, multi-perspective that includes a lot of griffins. The way Jen Williams did animal companions and mythical creatures in the Winnowing Flame trilogy makes me really excited for how she's going to tackle griffins. So say no more. I was already going to read this, no matter what the synopsis was, because I really enjoy The Winnowing Flame, but the synopsis makes me even more intrigued. I'm biased. This is one of my more anticipated ones, just like Evil Eye. I'm so excited for this one. This is Play of Shadows by Sebastian D. Castell, being released on my birthday, September 14th. It is the start of a new adult epic high fantasy series, and Sebastian D. Castell previously wrote the Greatcoat series, one of my all-time favorites. It is a swashbuckling fantasy series with a lot of swordplay, magic, and intrigue. It also will once again focus a lot on friendships between these characters, which is something that this author did so incredibly well with the Greatcoats. It also sounds like it is in the Greatcoats universe because it is following the failed son of two Greatcoats. I mean, this one is an auto buy for me, especially since it's in the Greatcoats universe. I have to read it. I'm so excited. Next, we have A Study in Drowning by Ava Reed. This one is being released on September 19th. It is a young adult gothic romance fantasy, and this is this author's first young adult novel. They previously wrote The Wolf and the Woodsman and Juniper and Thorn. This sounds like it is going to have some dark academia vibes with two rival students that are investigating a reclusive author's legacy, piecing together clues through letters and diaries, but there are dark forces conspiring against them. Very intrigued, and I think I will be receiving this from a book box that I'm subscribed to, so this will be one that I definitely end up reading. The next book I have is After the Forest by Kel Woods. This one is being released on September 26th, and it is an adult fantasy retelling. We are going to explore themes of the repercussions of a childhood filled with magic. It is set 20 years after the events of Greta and Hans and the witch in the gingerbread house. It is going to be filled with dark magic that is now returning to these woods, and it is going to be filled with dark secrets that will be uncovered in order to save this village. I am once again very intrigued by this. It is a debut author as well, so we will see how this one fares. I also believe that this one is coming in a book box that I'm subscribed to. So once again, I will be reading it. The next one we have is The Stranger Upstairs by Lisa M. Matlin. This is an adult horror thriller novel, and it is a debut by this author that is following a social media influencer who buys a murder house to renovate. It is a gothic psychological thriller. So once again, a lot of secrets revolving around this house, and is it haunted or is there something sinister going on that our influencer needs to figure out? Consider me intrigued. The next book I have is The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. This one is the continuation series from the A Darker Shade of Magic series. So it is adult high fantasy following a world where we have 4 parallel Londons, each with varying levels of magic, set 7 years after the events of the original trilogy. We have new characters and old that we will be following, one with a growing religious fervor and one that is threatened by a rising rebellion. There's also a new unusual magic ability that will be introduced into this world. So I am, like everyone else, very intrigued by this. I will probably need to reread A Darker Shade of Magic before I actually pick this one up, but I am definitely going to be getting to it eventually because V.E. Schwab is an auto-buy author for me. The next one I have is The Hexologist by Josiah Bancroft. This one is being released on September 26th. This is the author of the Books of Babel series, which I ended up DNFing that series, but we'll see how this new series that he's releasing gets reviewed because I'm very intrigued by it. It is a new adult fantasy series about a married couple that need to solve magical and odd mysteries. Like, this is going to be filled with very quirky magic and a husband and wife duo who are ready to use their wits and their hexes to take on this mystery at the center of the book. Once again, I don't know how I would feel about this newest book. I'm going to wait and see how the reviews look for this one before I end up picking it up, but I am curious because I thought Books of Babel had a lot of potential. It was just kind of the plot of the book itself wasn't my favorite. So I'm curious how a different series would work for me with this author. The next book I have is Upon a Frosted Star by M.A. Kuzniar. This one is being released on September 28th, and this author previously wrote Midnight in Everwood. This is an adult fantasy romance retelling that is a reimagining of Swan Lake. We are following a struggling artist who is invited to this very mysterious party, and it is following a story of our main character trying to discover secrets of an abandoned manor house and a cursed woman who is desperate to be free. Sounds beautiful, sounds wonderful, sounds very perfect for the winter season. So this is one that you might want to pick up when it gets nice and cold outside. The next one I have is Starling House by Alex E. Haro. This one is being released on October 3rd, and it is an adult gothic horror fantasy book with small town vibes that is haunted by a history that it can't seem to bury. We have a gothic house at the center of this story that is full of secrets. And our main character of Opal will have to dig up a family's dark past and will have to travel down to the Underland in order to claw her way back to the light. And I'm once again very curious to check this one out. I believe this one will also be coming in a book box I'm subscribed to, so once again, I will be reading this one for sure. Another one that will most likely be in a book box that I'm subscribed to, The Hurricane Wars by Tia Guanzon. This one is being released on October 3rd, and it is an adult fantasy romance novel. It does look like this is also this author's debut work, following the tale of our characters who are standing against this empire. It is following an enemies to lovers romance where one of our main characters is an orphan and has been fighting for freedom from the tyranny of this empire. Our other character is the heir to this empire who is tasked with killing our other character. So it sounds like this really is enemies to lovers, and it is a little bit of a forbidden romance as well. So I think this sounds quite epic and has a lot of early buzz. Very intrigued. The next book I have is The Voice Upstairs by Laura E. Weymouth. This is being released on October 3rd, and this author previously wrote several books, including The Light Between Worlds, which I read and which was beautifully written. This is a YA historical gothic fiction novel, perfect for fans of The Haunting of Bly Manor and Downton Abbey. We are set in 1920s England, and our main character can see spirits and is looking to solve the case of the mysterious deaths at this local manor home. I love these types of stories where we have people who can talk to spirits, interact with spirits. So I think that this sounds really, really good. And the other book that I read by this author was written so beautifully. It was more magical realism, so it wasn't my favorite, just because of the plot of the story and I just am not a huge magical realism fan, but I love the sound of this like gothic paranormal fiction book instead. I think that this one could really work for me. Next one I have is An Inheritance of Magic by Benedict Jacka. This one is being released on October 5th, and it is an adult urban fantasy novel. And this is the author of the Alex Virus novels. So this one has a premise where the super rich control the magic in this world, and our main character is on the edge of this hidden world, but gets noticed by the wrong people and will have to figure out how to take back control of this magic in order to survive. He also has a cat, so I think that this sounds really interesting, and it seems to be getting some really good early buzz. So very intrigued. Next book I have is Find Him Where You Left Him Dead by Kristen Simmons. This is being released on October 10th, and it is a young adult fantasy horror novel. And all I have to give you is this pitch: Jumanji, but Japanese inspired. Friends playing a deadly game in a nightmarish folkloric underworld, where they meet Shinigami and learn that they have to complete 7 challenges or else they are stuck in that world forever. Anything Japanese inspired, I'm already intrigued by, but the fact that this is a deadly game with these high school students and it's a horror novel, I'm so in on this. This is also, I think, one of my most anticipated releases of the rest of the year. So Evil Eye, Play of Shadows, and Find Him Where You Left Him Dead, all like top of the TBR. The next book I have is one that I'm sure a lot of people will be talking about, so it's probably already on your radar, but it is Swordcatcher by Cassandra Clare. This is being released on October 10th, and it is a young adult fantasy romance, and it is the author of the Shadowhunter world, and this is her first time writing a not Shadowhunters book, so I'm already very intrigued by that. It is the start of a new epic fantasy series following two outcasts, one being an orphan and one being from a small community who possesses magical abilities. There are criminal underworlds, there is a mysterious king, and there are long-kept secrets beginning to unravel, as well as a forbidden love. A lot of people are just curious to see how this author does outside of the Shadowhunters world, and I gotta say I'm also very curious. The next book I have is The Unmaking of June Pharaoh by Adrienne Young, who previously wrote Spells for Forgetting, which I really enjoyed, so I've been wanting to check out more by this author. This is being released on October 17th, and it is an adult fantasy mystery, more along the lines of magical realism, and it is following a family's centuries-old curse, a mother's disappearance, and finding love in a small town. It sounds very similar in vibe and tone to Spells for Forgetting, which is why I am so extremely excited for it, and it's one that I will definitely be picking up. The next book I have is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibanez. This one is a young adult fantasy historical fiction novel, and it is releasing on October 31st. It is The Mummy Meets Death on the Nile. Set in Egypt, and it is filled with adventure, a rivals to lovers romance, and a dangerous race. This sounds very rich in its writing and culture, and I'm just very intrigued by this. The next book I have is The Reformatory by Tananarive Due. This one is being released on October 31st, and it is an adult historical horror fiction. It is set in Jim Crow, Florida, and it is following a main character as he is sent to a segregated reform school that is a chamber of terrors, where he sees horrors of racism and injustice, and it is set in the 1950s. Once again, has a really intriguing premise, so I can't wait to hear what people think of this one. The next book I have is Keep Your Friends Close by Lucinda Berry. This is an adult thriller mystery novel, and it is being released on November 7th. Lucinda Berry previously wrote The Perfect Child, which is a thriller that I absolutely loved. So this one is following a president of a West Hollywood moms club that turns up dead in her own pool, and now all of the party guests are key suspects in her murder. This is going to be a mommy mystery drama set in West Hollywood, and I am so here for that. Next book I have is Defiant by Brandon Sanderson. This is the final novel in his Skyward series, which is a young adult science fiction fantasy series. It is being released on November 21st, and look, y'all know I was not a fan of Cytonic. I really didn't like Cytonic, the third book in this series, but I want to see how it ends. I really loved Skyward. I liked Starsight a lot, so I'm here to see how it ends. And even though I wasn't crazy about the answers we got, maybe this one could bring it back around for me and really stick the landing. Here's hoping. The next one I have is The Mystery Guest by Nita Prose. This is being released on November 28th. And it is an adult mystery thriller, and it is the follow-up to The Maid by the same author, and that was one of my absolute favorites of last year. I love The Maid, so of course I'm going to read the next book in this series. It is a standalone novel featuring the main character from The Maid, Molly Gray, and it is up to her once again to solve the mystery of an acclaimed author's death at the hotel she works at. Say no more. I'm here for it. Molly is one of my favorite characters of all time. The next one I have is The Kingdom of Sweets by Erica Johansson. This is an adult fantasy retelling that is being released on November 28th, and it is from the author of the Queen of the Tearling series, and it is a standalone that is a darkly magical take on the Nutcracker, where two sisters cursed from birth are forever changed one memorable Christmas. We are in the land of snow and sugar, and we have a dark destiny that is being uncovered. Something that sounds perfect for winter time, for Christmas time. I am all here for this. I love these types of seasonal reads, so if you do too, this might be right up your alley. The next book I have is The Dragons of Deepwood Fen by Bradley P. Below. This is being released on December 5th, and it is an adult high fantasy, and it is the first book in a new fantasy series. This is the author of the Song of the Shattered Sands series, which is a series that I never completed. I DNF'd the first book. However, I really want to check out more from this author to see if maybe a different series by him would appeal to me a lot more, and this one sounds really good. We have an unlikely duo, the first character being the smartest inquisitor in a mountain city, the second character being a notorious thief posing as a dragon singer. They come to realize they are trying to solve the same mystery, and they are branded as traitors as they flee on Dragonback. So I am all here for this. I think it sounds like a ton of fun. And finally, the last book I have, but certainly not the least, is Grievous Blood by Alexander Darwin, which is being released on December 5th. And it is an adult science fiction fantasy novel. It is the second book in the Combat Codes saga, and I read the first book in this trilogy earlier this year and absolutely loved it. It might be an all-time new favorite depending on how the rest of the trilogy goes, but I am so excited to continue on with this story. I loved the characters so much. I loved the cool world and the combat scenes, so I am all here for Grievous Blood. I cannot wait to see where this goes. So those are all of the anticipated releases for the rest of the year. Did you see any that are also on your list? And then did you see any that I didn't talk about that you are also really anticipating? Leave those comments down below. And thank you all so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye!